Welcome to the video. This is one of two videos on mountain resorts. This first one is primarily on planning stages and how that pertains to future operations. So the impact of development on operations. So you're going to develop something, you have to take into account how it's going to work, right? Because if you fail to take in all those details into account, you're spending money on things that may or may not be beneficial. So you need to take it out of account. So you need balance, right? We need to start with some kind of balance. And we're talking about physical balance and economic balance. So let's talk about physical balance. Is the size of the ski area, does it meet the needs of the market without being so large that it is underutilized? So as with anything, a restaurant, a hotel, any other hospitality business, or any business for that matter, we as human beings sometimes think with bigger is better. All right. So the bigger the restaurant, the more tables, the better are we going to be. But if you never fill more than a quarter of those tables, you're gonna go out of business very quickly. It's the same thing with a ski resort. We want to have a good amount of ski slopes and the slopes themselves being big enough to accommodate a lot of people. But if it's so big that they can accommodate volumes of people that they're never going to see, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. So the size of the mountain dictates the number of skiers that can be accommodated. So let's talk about that thing about the underutilized or overutilized. If your market says X amount of skiers, so we don't want to build it too big, we don't want to build it way beyond X amount, but we want to make sure that we're at least at meeting X amount. So if we're looking at a site that just can't accommodate what the market wants, then that might be something we need to reconsider. The capacity of lifts, bringing people up the mountain and down the mountain. What comes up will go down, or what comes down, because that's what we do is skiing, right? We want to go down, but it has to go up. So we have to have enough lifts to bring people up, and not too many, because we have more lifts than we have capacity to bring people down, then there's a bottleneck, and that becomes a safety issue. So both things are bad. So we have to balance the amount of the size of our ski resort and the amount of area that we have to ski on, and then we have to accommodate people going up and going down. All right. And the capacity indicates the support facility. So if we have a lot of capacity and we feel like the market's going to support it, we're going to fill it, then we have to have the support facilities, the ski rentals, the safety stuff, the lodging, the restaurants, all that stuff has to be proportionate to the size of the slopes or the capacity of the resort as far as the skiing goes. All right, so let's talk about economic balance. The economic balance brings together the amount of money that's invested and the earning capacity of the project. All right, we don't want to spend a lot of money on money that we're never going to get back. Okay, so the quality and quantity of the physical area must be sufficient enough to generate the revenue investors and give investors a return on their money. You're going to have investors. No single person is going to open a ski resort. They're just unless it's a corporation, but they're very, very expensive. So you have investors and they want return on their money, right? And so some projects just might never be doable. All right, people might, your average skier might look at a mountain and say, why is nobody putting a resort here? Well, for whatever reason, the economics don't work out. The investment that were required for that particular mountain, for whatever reason, being as far away from the raw materials and the labor and maybe regulations and this, that, and the other thing, the expense that it would take to build that resort just doesn't make any sense, because you're never going to get that money back, or it's going to take so many years that investors, won't want to invest. Now, revenue comes from the number of skiers, revenue per skier visit, and the length of the season. Again, yeah, that's a great mountain, but it's only got a 3-month season or 4-month season or a 2-month season. And yeah, there's such a thing as making snow, but the season still dictates whether or not you can make snow. You can't make snow in July, right? The length of the season definitely matters. Okay, so let's talk about the attractiveness of the site. There's many things that make it attractive or unattractive, right? So people look for a desirable mix of the climate, the snow conditions, exposure, snow retention, and forest cover. Looking at all those things, right? They don't want extreme temperatures, right? They don't want wind. They don't want a lot of excessive wind, all right? They want dry snow. We're looking at maybe 250 inches per year or per season, or 3 to 4 feet on the ground. Maybe no less than 2 on the ground at any given time. All right. Forest cover. Forest cover adds to the aesthetic and also provides protection for the wind. So if I purchase or get a lease on or a license on certain properties, say 200,000 or 100,000 acres or 50,000 acres, whatever, okay? I want to make as much money as I can, so I'm going to cut down all those trees. It's all ski slopes, right? No, I mean, you're definitely not wanting to do that. What makes it attractive is having the proper balance between nature and your man-made or man-groomed skiing areas, all right? Actual slopes, areas to go down. Terrain should provide a variety of grades and views. Grades means angles. You shouldn't have one like this, right? The entire mountain is a 45 or 50 degree, 70 degree drop. Yeah, no. All right. So you should have a variety of that, right? And then views. Part of why we go skiing is to be outside. Yes, the actual zooming down the slopes is fun, but being outside, being in that environment. I mentioned in this week's discussion that the first time I ever went skiing seriously, pretty much the only time, was in the Bavarian Alps. All right, and we had a package where we got ski lessons from a professional skier, and we're able to go up, quite a ways. And it was a tiered kind of thing, and you could take the lifts to certain stages. And you could go all the way to the top stage and have one continuous run, and it was wonderful. But the view in the Bavarian Alps was more worth the money I paid than going down the mountain. Now it was thrilling, but just being there, experience the majestic beauty of the Bavarian and Austrian Alps, because they were right on the border. So that's a different draw, right? That's a different attractive thing. The space at the base, what makes a resort attractive is the base area. The amenities you have down there, the aesthetic, the parking, the restaurants, the hotels, all that stuff. The length of the season, we talked about that. Let's see, what other things? Yeah, just overall feel of the place, right? So let's talk about access to markets. Here's the thing about access to markets. The more attractive the site, the further people are going to come, right? Which is great, right? I grew up in New Hampshire. There were sites that were just outside of every town, little mountains just outside of every town. They weren't all that attractive. All right, they didn't have a lot of features. They weren't great, but they supported the local markets, right? Now the ones further away that were an hour, 2-hour drive, those were much more attractive. The aesthetic was way better. The views were beautiful. Even the views on the local ones were nice, but these were much better in the heart of the White Mountains. So those with very attractive sites drew people from far, far away, not only within the state, but within the Northeast and throughout the country, even the world, okay? So the more attractive the site, the further they're going to go. However, the further you are from your market, the more attractive you have to be. So though I use the examples of the local ones, the little ones that serve the local markets, if those were put far, far away, they wouldn't succeed because they're not attractive enough to draw people from far away. It's just like anything, okay? So it makes sense, right? So let's move on. All right, now we're going to talk about general design principles and how they relate to the success of the site, okay? The physical, aesthetic, and the social forces help determine the design of the community. Certain design principles provide an umbrella for specific site planning, okay? So we're trying to accomplish, each site's trying to accomplish an entire aesthetic and all the different things that are going to make your site or your resort attractive to customers, all right? So some of those things is design the ski area must conform to the existing physical site, all right? You're not going to pound a round peg into a square hole, right? You have a mountain. It's a mountain, right? Mountains are pretty special all by themselves, right? So you want to build your slopes and your resort to accommodate that mountain or to accentuate that mountain in a natural way. You don't want to build a skyscraper, modern glass building on the side of a mountain. Well, maybe you do, I don't know, but it has to make sense, right? Just like anything, things need to make sense, all right? So the difficulty of slopes would be matched by the ability of skiers. So who's our market, all right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but you shouldn't just go all in one skill level. You should vary your skill levels. Newly groomed slopes attract less advanced skiers, while slopes with icy conditions increase difficulty. All right. So if you're building, you're designing, and you understand that there's an area that's going to be more exposed to the sun and then melting and all that other stuff, and it's going to cause more icing and all this stuff, and the terrain itself is more difficult. Understand that that's going to be for your more advanced skiers. All right. Now, a given ski area supports fewer and fewer skiers as their ability increases. So that's very, very important. If a ski slope is a double diamond or double black diamond or whatever, really, really difficult, right? That's great. The people who love that stuff are going to love it. However, there's fewer of those people. There's much fewer expert skiers than there are novices and medium skilled skiers, right? So yes, we all want to build the ultimate thing, especially if we're enthusiasts ourselves. We want to build the ultimate thing, right? The ultimate difficult, challenging, greatest experience of your life. But if only 5 people go down there a year, you're not being successful from the business point of view. So we always have to look at the business point of view, that return on investment, right? So novice skiers and intermediate skiers bring way more money than advanced skiers do. So yes, we definitely want to have a challenging slope or two, right? We might want to incorporate those together. Like I used the example of Germany when I was in the Bavarian Alps. The same lift brought me to 3 different areas. If I stopped at the first area and just skied there, go up to the first, ski down, go up to the first, ski down, that was great. That was good for beginners and intermediate. I was a beginner and intermediate, but I eventually went to the top because after a full week of skiing, I got competent enough to do that. But that was a way that we incorporated the very difficult all the way down to the not so difficult, all right? Let's talk about some other things. Access road design should be based on expected peak traffic. Nothing is worse than when people underestimate the infrastructures needed to support the projects that they're building, all right? If you're building a project and I need people to come. If you build it, they will come, right? Well, yes, they will, and they need to be able to get there. So make sure that's taken into consideration. Excuse me. All right. Okay. All right, so continue on with designing, with design characteristics. You should determine the number of acres to be cleared, and you do that by calculating the number of skiers which you expect, right? Which this should equal the number of net skiable acres, and the times the appropriate skier density. All right, so skiers at one time, right? That's a number that you need to look at. Skiers at one time. Approximately 50% of the skiers are at this on the slopes at one time. So I sell lift tickets for a day. Let's say I do 500 lift tickets, right? So I got 500 people in the park or in the resort, right? Or on the slopes, whatever you want to call it. Now, 250 of those are skiing right now, and the other 250 are in between. All right, so that's one thing you want to take into consideration. So skiers at one time, if I build my infrastructure and everything big enough for X amount, understand that about half of those at any given time are going to be on the slopes. So that's a good thing to take into consideration. Then the other thing is there's persons at one time. Takes into account the non-skiers. Okay, so that's the total number. Non-skiers. So what are they doing? Where are they at? They at the shops? Are they at the restaurants or at the little warming tents or whatever you call it or whatever. It's been a long time since I've been to a ski resort. I don't even know what the amenities are anymore. So those are things you need to take into consideration. Okay, and then also night skiing. This is a very interesting certificate that adding illumination, all right, for night skiing increases the capacity of 60%. So you can get 60% more skiing done by all your skiers if you add lighting. All right, that's a big deal. 60%, especially, we don't ski in the summer equinox, right? We're not skiing when the days are super long. We're skiing when the days are super short. So, I grew up, our days in the wintertime were like 7 hours of daylight. All right, so having that illumination in the skiing, or night skiing, can definitely increase your capabilities. Okay. All right, some other areas of the site design is one of the things when you're designing it, you want to follow the runs parallel to the fall lines. You want to have your ski runs parallel to the fall line. What is a fall line? It's pretty much the natural descent between 2 points. Now that's not always a straight line up and down the mountain. The way the terrain is, it might drift it down this way and that way, but that's where you want to run your slopes, right? You want variations in gradients. We talked about that. Should be offered a more interesting experience. So shouldn't be just the same run. I mean, if it was just a flat run, I mean, that's great. But if there's no character in that and the terrain, it's just a perfect straight line, A to B down, that's less exciting for folks. So you need to have variations in gradients and all those different things. Runs should be wider at the top and wider at the bottom. Okay, why? Because at the bottom people are finishing, and then you want to have plenty of room so nobody's going to hurt themselves. And then when they're at the top, they're mingling. Some folks are just sitting there building up courage, right? So there's a lot of more congestion at the top and the bottom than there is when you're going. When you're going, as long as I got a bubble of 10 feet around me or even less than that, I'm perfectly safe and fine because everybody else has got their bubble and they're going with me, right? So, of course, you have the people that tumble and you have to go around them. But the bottom line is the bottom and the top are where the congestion is. All right. Separate runs and lifts for purposes of safety. So, I actually been to ski resorts where the T-bar was right there. There's no separation, right? You could, if you're on the T-bar, you could, in theory, halfway up, just take off and go down, right? That was dangerous, right? That was an older resort. So that was very, very dangerous. So you want that separation. Now, when I was in Bavaria, they had those same chairlifts and the T-bars or whatever, but in between it, they had like a row of trees with some natural character in between the lift, and then they converged at the top, and then there was that larger area at the top where people come off the lift and then they go straight down. Okay, so those are things you want to take into consideration. You also want to increase the shade and wind control to help keep the snow on the slopes. If you put it right there exposing the midday sun, and it's all your skiable surfaces is that exposure, you're going to have a hard time keeping the slopes good, right? So you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind the shade, the direct sunlight, and the wind. Keeping the cutting boundaries kind of varied and uneven, meaning the trees, right? You have trees of varied sizes, whatever. So it's not just slope, highly dense forest that you can't even go through. You're kind of building into that dense forest so people can, it helps with the wind, and it helps maybe for people have places where they can take a break or whatever. You definitely don't want it too varied where people are trying to dodge trees as they're skiing either. So especially on the beginner slopes. You want to groom all your ski runs, all right? Groom them. Don't just let the snow fall and say that's it. So you're going to build moguls. You're going to put little things in there to make it more interesting, and you're going to make sure that the slopes are safe and provide an enjoyable experience for your skiers. All right, next we're going to talk about ski lifts. Ski lifts are very, very important because you got to get them up to get them to go down, right? Understand that the longer the lift, the base point A to point B, which is the top of the lift, that longer distance means higher capacity of skiers, because I can have an enormous amount of people go down a mountain if there's a long distance, because people start, then another person starts, and they're all going down together, right? So the longer the run, the more my capacity is. And let's talk about the different types of ski lifts. All right, so ski lifts, there's different types, right? We have tows, cable lifts, chair lifts, gondolas, and tramways. A tow is nothing more than a cable with maybe a handle or something on there that is about, waist high for your average person, where you just ski up there and you grab it and it pulls you up, right? You'll see these a lot on the smaller slopes or the beginning slopes, or a lot of just really abridged ski areas where there's just one small little beginner type slope. There's just you grab that thing and you just ride it up. And now, one thing to clarify, in case you don't know, you actually still have your skis on, and your skis are on the snow, and you're actually skiing uphill because you're being towed. Okay, so the second one with the cable lift is very similar to that, except that the cable is probably up higher, and then it has something hanging down. They call these T-bars, or a lot of different things you can call it. The same thing. Somebody will grab it for you, and you put the cross section on your backside, and then you'll still ski uphill. Okay, and then we start getting the chairlifts, where the chairlift comes around. It's a big chair suspended from cables. It comes around, you sit down, and you get taken off, and you actually go high, right? You've lost contact with the ground in that one. And then gondolas or tramways are the same thing, except they're actually enclosed cabins being carted up to the mountain, okay? So those are the different types of lifts. Now, we've covered a lot on the fun stuff, right? The actual slopes where you're going to be doing your skiing. But let's talk about the base area, right? The base area is going to have several different things there, but one of the big things is going to be parking. Parking takes up a lot of space. I remember as a kid in New England going past the ski resorts and seeing these small slopes going up the mountain and a huge parking lot to support all that, right? So, you know, you're talking almost Disneyland size, well, maybe not that, but, you know, theme park size parking lots. So one thing that they're doing nowadays is doing some kind of underground parking so that there's less congestion, excuse me, and less chances for injury or whatever, people skiing into cars. And there are a lot of parking lots are right there, not far from where you would come down. So if you continue to come down and you're one of those people who learn how to ski but never learn how to stop, you could, in theory, go right into the parking lot, right? So you want to take that stuff into consideration. But understand that people are going to come to you several different ways. They're either going to come by their own car, right? And a lot of them will, or public transportation. If the big resort accommodations are, you know, half mile away or a lot away or so, people have parked there at the accommodation and they'll take shuttles or whatever. And then sometimes they'll just come on foot. Some resort towns are built and designed to the point where you could pretty much stay anywhere in the town and just walk to the ski lifts. All right. So take all that in consideration. Access roads must consider the patterns of arrival and departure. So you have to take in, you know, okay, what's going to get people here? Well, they have to leave as well, right? So if the leaving causes congestion for the coming, you have to take all that into consideration. All right. So food service is going to be in the base area, right? Food service is a big deal, right? People just don't go to ski. I mean, some folks do, right? The people who have season tickets and they go there and they do a couple runs and then they go home because they're locals, whatever, yeah. But most folks, when they're going to a resort, a ski resort or any resort, they want the full experience. A bunch of you mentioned in our first discussion about your idea of a resort is a place where you're going to have fun, many things to do. Food was always in the forefront. So having good quality food service, varied food service, exciting food service is important. Accommodations, they're going to range from hotels, second homes, condominiums, timeshares. Pretty much the entire time equity continuum that we talked about last week is going to be there. Especially, I mean, more, I believe probably even more so at a ski resort or a mountain resort than some of the others, because people are going to want to have those second homes and the condominiums, and they're going to want to have some ownership there. All right. So the closer to the slope, the higher density of the accommodation. So if further away from the slope, you're not going to have, you know, hotel upon hotel upon hotel. You're going to be more varied. But the closer, you're going to have more hotels, tighter spaced and all that. Okay. Again, in the base area, you're going to have to worry about the base area. You're going to have all of your grooming stuff, right? Your big machines, your grooming machines, your snowmaking machines, all that other stuff. And then probably one of the most important things at the base area is your emergency care. You have ski patrol emergency facilities in case those people get hurt or whatever, right? So that's very important that you have that designed into it as well. All right, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to this chapter is the maturation. I have a hard time saying that word. Maturation cycle of a ski area. Ski areas increase when the ski areas increases midweek use, which increases the need for overnight accommodation. So you're more mature when you have a lot more midweek use. If you're just a weekend place, you're not going to be all that, you're not mature. All right. So the more mature you are, the more 7-day-a-week skiing you have. So when we have that 7-day-a-week skiing, we need more of other things to support it. We need more overnight accommodation. And then that overnight accommodation actually has an expense and everything. So it's still there during the summer, so you have to figure out ways to fill those places in the summertime. The resort villages need to have year-round utilization, and I believe we're going to get into this in later chapters, but there's a lot of ski resorts that are doing some very, very exciting things, some very interesting things to keep them, maybe not the ski slopes open, but their area, people coming into the accommodations, to the restaurants and all that other stuff. You switch straight from skiing to hiking and mountain biking into some of those places will have the summertime ski-like activities where they have apparatus to bring you down the mountain in a different way other than in skis, like a dry luge or whatever. All those different things. So that's very important. And the more mature the area, the more in tune they are to all that. So that's pretty much it for this chapter and for this week. Or not for this week, because we have a second video for the second chapter. All right, we'll see you then.